There may be nothing more painful in marriage than experiencing your spouse betraying you by stepping outside of the marriage into adultery. And it brings up so many questions, so many concerns, so much pain that sometimes it's hard to know, how do I navigate through this journey of, one, personally grieving and recovering, and then two, deciding, should I or do I want to restore the marriage as well? Well, in this video, I sit down with Kate Conwell, who leads a community of women called Journey Beyond Betrayal. And she shares from her own experience of betrayal in her marriage with other women who are experiencing the same thing. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the process of discovery and personal recovery once you found out that your spouse has stepped outside of the marriage. That's today on RelationShots. Hey there, welcome. I am with Kate Conwell, who leads a community for women called Journey Beyond Betrayal, where she helps women who have experienced betrayal of some kind in their marriages and helps them heal, restore their marriages, if that makes sense. And so we're going to talk today about her journey, how she helps women, and what to do if you experience betrayal in your marriage. Hey, how you doing?
Good.
You ready for this?
I hope so. We'll see, I guess.
You're always ready. So here's what I want to do. I want to hear first your journey, just kind of the overview of your marriage, when you found out that your husband was having an affair and a little bit of the aftermath. And then I want to circle back and really dig in on that discovery moment, the personal healing. And then I want to do a different video where we kind of talk about marriage restoration. So give myself and those watching kind of your story of how you got here.
Yes. So we met in college. We both did track for the University of Washington, met on the track bus on the way home from a meet, and started dating shortly after that. Dated for 2 years, broke up, and then we're on and off because we're on the same team. So we can't get away from each other. Kind of unhealthy relationship happening there. I dated a few other people during that time, and he eventually realized, like, okay, this is what I want, and can I date you again? He'd broken my heart several times saying, I want to date. I don't want to. I want to date. Maybe that's a red flag. But we're in college.
Too late now. Yeah, we can't go back now.
No, we were in college, so it made sense, right? Like, I was like, this is what I want. He's marriage material. Like, let's do this. And he was like, I'm in college. I want to hang out with my friends. Like, I'm playing video games. Let's just, like, yes, I want to marry you, but, like, not right now. So that caused, these issues back and forth. So eventually, once we were both done with college, he was like, okay, I'm ready. Like, and I was like, okay, well, we're either doing this and we're getting married, or like, this is it. We're not going to like keep trying again, because now we can actually like go on with our lives. We don't have to see each other frequently in the weight room or whatever. So we start dating again. Maybe 6-8 months later, he proposes. And then after that, 6 months later, we got married. Beautiful wedding. All of our friends, Mount Rainier in the background. It was super fun. So that was the beginning of our marriage. Of course, we came into it kind of with a little bit of damage from
on again,
off again.
Mistrust,
yeah. Sure. But we also were both training at that time, so pursuing our own Olympic dreams and supporting each other in that. But two strong-willed people that, I don't know, never really learned how to be married, I guess. So we're trying to figure that out and also accomplish other things at the same time. So it wasn't like an easy marriage, I would say. I mean, and there was time, we would go to marriage Bible studies, and I remember like different thoughts I had during that time, looking back and being like, okay, like, I want to get off the crazy cycle. I keep trying to get off the crazy cycle, and I'm the only one trying to get off of it. Or another time where I was like, God, there has to be more than this. Like, do whatever it takes to fix my marriage. Like, I don't care if that, like, change him, like, whatever. I can't, now this is like 4 years into marriage. I'm like, I can't, this can't be all that there is.
Sure.
So we didn't have like this amazing necessarily relationship, but like we loved each other and we're very like determined and willing to, like, that was one thing we came into marriage with, like a commitment to do whatever it takes to like make our marriage work.
So your stubbornness was good and bad.
Good and bad.
We
Yes.
butted heads, but we also were saying we're stuck. Yeah,
100% for sure. And until like 5 years into the marriage, I picked up his phone one day and found these very sexually explicit text messages and confronted him pretty quickly after that. There wasn't a lot of like thought in between finding the messages.
Right.
And then I was upstairs. We were managing an apartment complex together. So I wasn't like snooping. I was just doing our job, picked up the phone, saw this, and like went down to where he was and was like, what is this?
Right.
And that was the beginning of the discovery of what unfolded was not just text messages, but then a trickle truth of like more and
Other
more
stuff.
other stuff.
We'll get into that. So fast forward us up to this point.
Up to
today.
Today.
So you found out,
Yes.
and then obviously there was a process of personal healing,
yes.
decision to restore the marriage, and ultimately you guys
Right.
did that work.
Yeah. So after like, it was like 2.5 weeks of like things coming out, me saying like, is this it? And him being like, yes, it's it. And then something else coming. And once I found out of like the physical affair, I was like, I don't know if I want, like, I don't know if I want to be married. And now there's a biblical out, right? Like unfaithfulness is a reason I can leave. And so we had a 1-year-old son. I went with him and went back to where we had been living in Alabama because we had only been where we were for like a month. So I didn't have like a ton of community there. And I knew I couldn't, I was like really broken, like just more than anything I've ever experienced. And was like, I called my friend, was like, I can't take care of this is what's happened. I can't take care of myself. I can't take care of my son. Like, can you take care of me?
Yeah.
And so she was like, of course, so we fly out, and that was the beginning of like my grieving process of like being able to just sit in the emotions of what I'd experienced and like the devastation, the questions of like, how could this happen? Why did this happen? What's going to happen next? All of those things. And just like the crushing weight of like the person that you love the most has been deceiving you for like, I don't know. I mean, all the way back probably to be really what I know now is like before we even started dating, like there was like deception happening. And so kind of just allowing myself to grieve what I had been like, what I was experiencing was like grief. And so kind of that lasted for a good time because I was able to just be in it, right? Like most people are like trying to go through their life and like have their kid and go to work. And I didn't have to do any of that. So I just 2 solid weeks of like sitting in that. And then I kind of got to a place where I was like, okay, like I can't keep living in this lady's basement forever.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to stay literally like I'm in the basement with my son. There's no windows down here. This is not the life. And so I started like looking for information, like what can help me understand what I'm going through? What can help me heal from this? And what do I need to like not feel this way for the rest of my life? And so that started like the healing process of understanding how this happens, why this happens, what can I do to not have this kind of weight live with me forever? Because it's like this big rock that's now been put on my back, this burden of like pain. If you don't deal with it, it's going to impact you whether you realize it or not, is what I think.
Yeah. So then you made the decision to try to restore the marriage, and you
fast forward. We're skipping some steps. We'll come back. I know.
We'll get in, and we'll get into that. I think in the next video.
Okay.
But you made the decision to do that. You guys did the work, whatever that looks like. And then it's brought you to this place now where you have a heart to go back and sit with the women who were sitting in your shoes and try to help them figure out the grieving, healing, and possibility of restoration process as well.
Yeah. We both kind of did our individual work, came together, like you said, at some point decided, okay, we're going to at least try to make this work. And then we are going to make this work. And part of that process, I mean, the couple that helped us was like, you guys can use your story to help other people through this. And so we always kind of did it as it made sense. And then now I'm doing it like as a passion project and like daily helping people, because you feel so alone and you're not sure who to talk to, what to do. And so this idea of the community is something that kind of God dropped on me. And it's like, okay, let's make a safe place where women can talk about this with other people who understand, because that's the other thing. You feel like nobody understands it, even though there's like millions of people in the world that understand it.
But like, they don't know my situation and how I'm feeling, right?
Right, right. And we all think like my situation is different. Everybody's story is unique, but the feeling that you feel of betrayal is what unites you. And that's a terrible feeling, but you don't have to have the exact same story to understand what that feels like. You just have to have experienced it.
Yeah, no, you can, a physical affair, an emotional affair, maybe pornography, all of those can induce the same kind of betrayal
for sure
feelings in a person. So let's here's where I want to go next. So the initial discovery and maybe some, and then, so I think maybe some of your story, but then also I want to hear as you coach women who are in that place, those initial feelings about yourself. I'm sure there are now beliefs being crafted around myself, around marriage, around the other person, if you're a person of faith, around my faith. So in that initial discovery, what are some of the things that women are dealing with? And if you've also got advice of like looking back, what not to do, what would you say to women who are there? They've found out, now they're trying to manage the mess. And like you said, you had, luxury is the wrong word, but it was the word that came.
Yeah,
you had the opportunity to kind of just unplug from the marriage, get away from him, go with somebody who is a safe space, which allowed you to really like feel the stuff. Because otherwise, like, I'm going through the motions and my husband's still here, and sometimes I'm putting more energy into trying to worry about him doing it again and preventing him from doing it, and then I'm not healing. So what would you say are keys for women at that moment, and maybe some things to avoid?
Okay. So the moment I found out the last piece of information, I'm literally in the fetal position on the floor. He's not even there. He told me over the phone. So I'm like, I don't even know what noise is coming out of me.
And this was weeks.
This is like,
well, it was just talk, or it was just until finally, until
it was like,
which is common, right?
Yes.
That we're gonna fess up. Some people will be honest. Most people, at least from my experience too, will give you only what they think they have to, and so it drags it out.
And I mean, and it was repeatedly, this is it. Like,
I need everything. This is it.
And like, and you feel like the bottom is, you're like, okay, I've hit the bottom. Nope, there's more. The bottom keeps falling. And so, it's that moment of like, okay, here I am. The bottom now, it didn't fall out. And yes, I got that in like 2.5 weeks. That's actually really fast.
Yeah,
for a lot of it's months, years until you get the whole thing. They need a lie detector. But so here I am, totally broken and devastated, right? I do think, I had the luxury of being able to step outside of my life essentially and just create this safe space. You need to figure out ways to do that, even if it's not this dramatic like change like I had, which was leave and
so go. Even pockets of
just
time,
pockets of time. I saw this on like a TV show where the guy had lost his wife, and he's like, 15 minutes a day I just let myself like really experience those emotions. And I'm like, that's great. Now he was like farther along, like not immediately his wife, but like he's like, now I still give myself that time. So it's like finding those pockets of time where you say like, okay, this I'm experiencing, you can't deny this, and you have to allow yourself to at least feel it, and like let yourself feel. And as like terrible as it feels, if you try to avoid it, you're just gonna make it last longer. Yeah. And so finding pockets of time to just allow yourself to grieve or just feel whatever it is that you're feeling without judgment, I think is really the first step. And like, you want to worry about, is he going to do it again? Like, what do I need to do? It's like, just like
you have to
here.
remove that.
Yeah, like you're here. This has happened. We can't change the past, and we don't even need to worry about the future yet. Like we just need to deal with the present.
Yeah.
And so figuring out how you can do that, and that, like, I get it. You don't have the luxury like I did, but everybody can find 15 minutes in a day, like, to do that, and hopefully longer, or like, give your kids to someone for a week. Like, you don't have to tell them exactly what's happening. No. But that's really the important first step, I think, for anyone, is to like figure out how they can do that. Get safe, really.
Yeah.
And find a safe place to do that. And then it's like, then you can, from there, you can start to do the other things that you need to start
What
healing.
about, what would be your advice for outside help? Because I'll talk to some people. Now, you and I, because we have these kind of conversations all the time, it's like just natural. Just, you got a community, man. We share stuff.
Yes.
But I know people who, I'm like, they don't even know. Does anybody know? There's some people who literally nobody else knows but the two of them. I'm like, you don't have any. So what would you say as part of the healing process? I feel like it's mandatory, but what would you say?
I agree with you. Okay. I think it's mandatory that you let someone else in.
Yeah.
And we let a lot of people in, which isn't necessarily the right way to do it either. Sure. But like you have nobody, and then you have like the whole, like everybody.
Yeah.
And somewhere in between, it's like you need to find the right people to let, and you cannot go through this alone.
Yeah.
It's too much. And so, like I've said, it's grief. Like when someone dies, we don't try to deal with that alone. It's very public. Everybody knows that person died.
Yeah. And there's
like,
so much shame around this.
There's a lot of shame. But as I said, like there's millions of people that have been through this. And so you may not know that they've been through it, but there are plenty of, I can guarantee if in a room, if there's 3 women in here, one of them has experienced it. It's me, right?
Right.
But so I guess like finding the people that are going to support you is scary, because you don't know how they're going to respond, and there are a lot of people who will respond in a negative way, maybe, or just like, get out of there, like he's a scumbag, leave him, or give you bad advice. Like, so I understand that fear is real, and there's a lot of people that have tried to share it and gotten, even from like the church or from a counselor.
Oh, sure.
Like I've heard horror stories of people sharing it with people that you would think. And so I guess my advice to them is like, if you share it and you feel like, well, one, if you're the one who's been betrayed and you share it and you feel any shame coming back at you, that's not the right person.
Right.
So try again. Like, I know it's scary to like tell someone and then not have a loving response, but just try again, because there are people out there that know how to deal with this and will support you in the right ways. And you need that. And so finding those people, even if the first experience is bad, like just like try again, like find me, like reach out to one of us, because there's lots of resources out there. Like Google, even if you can't find someone that you feel like in your own community, there's tons of stuff online now that you can find to talk to someone, or even like you need more than just a video, but at least you would.
But that can be a starting point of just understanding and recognition and, you know, some of your feelings. So, yes, I agree. We need people around us. So in that process, what are some things that you think women need to be doing? Because again, I think the tension is, well, crap, I gotta grieve. I gotta deal with, you know, whatever. Because, you know, we talked about this off camera, but some people who already feel like they're not enough can feel like this is confirmation of my not enoughness. So now I got to deal with that. But at the same time, I'm fearful of losing my spouse. So I feel like I got to put my energy into making the relationship better. And so what's the balance? What's the right balance of self versus marriage? From your perspective early on?
Early on, my perspective is address yourself first. And that was how we did it. We each addressed ourselves before and you want to rush into making a decision about the marriage because you think that's going to stop the pain.
Sure.
But whether you leave the marriage or you stay in the marriage, like that's not going to stop your pain. You're still going to have a lot to deal with. Or the
fear of it. This person now has somebody else. And so if I'm non-committal or if I don't fight for this, maybe I'll lose them.
Yes. So that wasn't like a struggle that I had of like, because I was like, you know what?
Bro,
I don't want to be
right,
if this is the marriage, like I said, we didn't have like this great marriage, and I was like, well, this could be my out. Like, you know, not that I was looking for an out, but like, you know, I don't know if I want this. Like, if I want this, it's going to have to be something different.
Right.
And so I think we jumped to like trying to make a decision about the marriage. And I would say like, what you do in that moment isn't going to make or break your marriage.
Yeah.
I don't think. As far as making a decision. Like if you decide to stay, that doesn't mean that your marriage is going to work. If you decide to go, that doesn't mean your marriage is going to break up.
Yeah. Or if you say, I don't know right now.
Yeah.
I need to process. It's not like one decision's going to wait oh man, I lost it because I didn't make a decision.
Yes.
Right?
And if you want my personal opinion and also my husband's opinion, like, I'll say men, but I mean, anyone who's been like the betrayer, they need to hit the bottom too.
Yeah.
So they need to understand, like in order to like turn the other way and make a change, they need to experience the consequences of what they've done. And so sometimes that does mean like, I don't know. Yeah. Saying I don't know, we think like if we say, I'm in it, like that's going to make them stay. But sometimes they need to experience the depth of you're carrying this pain, but they caused it. Mm-hmm. Their actions caused it. So they need to experience the consequences in order to be able to make the change. But we're afraid that they're not going to, we can't control that. Yeah. So I think, yes, pursue your own healing because that's all you can control anyways. You can have influence over if your marriage is saved, but only you can take control of your own healing. And so you need to do that. And that would involve like, yes, attacking some of those like beliefs about yourself that you're starting to maybe feel like are confirmed because of his choices. But the reality is like there's something that's not enough in the other person that's making them to make that decision, not because you're not enough.
Yeah.
And we tend to think like, well, it was me. Something about me made them do this. It's like, no, it's something about them made them do this. And when you can start to realize that and look at it from this bigger picture, which is like what books allowed me to do. Like I didn't have a group. When I tried to find a group, there wasn't like these online groups like there are now. So you have to find them. This was, 10, 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so like those books allowed me to understand like, oh, this is what's happening in his mind. Oh, this is how these things happen. It doesn't actually have anything to do with me, and that was huge when I could start to see like really from a bigger picture of like, I'm looking from the outside in at what happened. That was pivotal for my healing, I think.
Yeah. And I get why people, they find some comfort in feeling like if it was something I did, that's good because now I'm in control of changing it.
Yes.
But I'm also like, if you play that movie forward, that's not where you want to be because now the rest of your marriage and his faithfulness is dependent on your capabilities, right? So it feels good in the moment because it's something I can control. And if that's not it, I can never control him. And no matter how great I am, it doesn't matter. Yes. That doesn't feel good. But long term, that's where you want to be because I'm like, I don't want to have to worry about having a bad moment or season and not, being able to support them or encourage them the way they want. And then it's like, well, they're out every time. Yes. So it's this weird.
Their motivation needs to come from themselves, not from like, and we can like support.
Sure.
We want to support our husband or wife and like create opportunities to protect the marriage by like providing the things that are going to not like cause that
stress. We want to do the things to keep us connected.
We cannot prevent them from ever doing this again. That's up to them.
Yeah. So what are some on the personal journey side? Mm-hmm. What are maybe some markers is the wrong word because it's not like there's do 1, 2, 3, 4 and you're going to be amazing. But what are some of the areas maybe that women really need to kind of go, I need to process this. I need to heal this as part of the journey that you've seen? Yeah,
I think their beliefs about themselves are a great place to start. I guess, like you said, this is all kind of happening simultaneously, and it depends where you are when you come into this. But like your beliefs about yourself that maybe got exposed because of this, like they were already there, or just like the belief becomes like more solid because of this. that needs to be untangled because it's not the truth. So looking at the things that you believe about yourself and why you believe them, and really finding confidence in who you are and knowing that you are enough and that you are worthy of love, and that doesn't change because of how someone else treats you or the decisions they make, I think is an ongoing process. Learning how to like set boundaries around what you are and aren't okay with, and what that looks like for you personally, but also maybe in your relationship if you're going that direction. Those are some of the things you have to do kind of towards, you got to start looking at that kind of in the beginning. And then, you know, as you're working towards healing, it's like, I believe you need to kind of understand, like, what am I working towards? Like, what is this? What, like, I think that, I'll say this, I think when you experience the depth of pain in this way, and it can happen in other situations too, like you look at your life, you're forced to look at your life in a way that we don't do often, because you're like, I don't want to feel this way. Well, how do I want to feel? Like, and I was kind of like already like unhappy in my marriage, or like I kind of already felt like I wasn't enough before, and I don't want that anymore.
Yeah, you certainly didn't want to go back to the marriage you had prior, because that wasn't very good anyway.
No. And so you have to know, like, what is it that I want and how can I get there? And like that, what you want has to become so important to you that you're willing to, like, even though it's scary, even though you're gonna have to do uncomfortable things, you're willing to do it. It's like, I mean, we both come from an athletic background. You don't grow muscle by staying in your comfort zone. You don't like get to where you want to go by doing the same thing you've always done. Right? You have to stretch yourself and challenge yourself to accomplish something new. And so it's like that, what you want has to become so important to you that you're willing to like do what it takes to get there. And so it's like figuring out what that even is for you, because we don't often think about it. I think, especially as moms or wives, we're like so concerned with everybody else. Like, what does my kid need? What do I want? What do I need? And not in a selfish way, but in a like, okay, this is the kind of life I want to create for my family or for my kids or for me. And my son, we had a 1-year-old, like, was a huge part of the motivation. Like, he's 1. I have to raise him for 17 years. Like, I can't do it from this shell of a person that I am right now. And so figuring out what that is, ultimately, I think forgiveness is a big piece of the puzzle, and people rush to that. And I get a lot of questions about like forgiveness, and I'm like, that is a process. Like, my opinion is you can't just offer that right away, because it's not real. A lot of times you don't even know what you're forgiving. Right. And so
you don't have enough details. You're like again and again and again. Yeah.
So I guess like that's kind of, I think, further down the road is like, how do I forgive? And like, what does that look like? Even like, again, that's independent of the marriage. You're in control of the forgiveness, and that's for yourself, not for him. Or, I mean, if you are going to reconcile, you need to forgive, but, and then if you're going to reconcile, you need to rebuild trust.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that in the next video. So grieving, we've got to take time to properly do that, and then looking at self and addressing maybe lies that we already believed about self or have now bought in this moment about self. Forgiveness piece, and trying to figure out, creating a vision for kind of what do I want my life to look like, and because that helps with the boundaries, right? If I know where I'm trying to go, then I can set the boundaries. So let's conclude this part of it with what are some things that you see women doing that you would say, I don't know about that. So one of the things for me often, that people want to ask all these detailed questions, and what I'll say to them is, I want you to have enough information that you feel like you have the full picture that can allow you to make all those decisions and process. But outside of that, the more info the more triggers you're creating. Pretty soon it's like, I can't see green cars or Denny's or the hotel or certain words. And so what do you see women doing that's probably not helpful to them?
Yes. And that triggers, I guess, that's a huge piece of the healing process too, but we won't jump into that. But I would agree with you. I think you need enough information, but not, like, does it really matter if you know what color hair she had?
Sure.
Like, how big her boobs were? Like,
how many times they had,
what position? Or like, even if you're not talking about a physical affair, like, do you need to know everything that was said? Do you need to know the visual images that he was seeing on the screen? Like, do. I mean, and some people, they do, but it's like, I would say.
They think they do. I'm not sure if you do.
I would say you want to ask it all right away. But some of those things, is there more? I think is a legitimate question.
Sure.
Is there more I need to know? Are you telling me everything that's happened? Like, knowing that there was one woman versus two women, I think is an important detail. But knowing, like, if you know he was with her multiple times, do you need to know the exact number? Does it make a difference to what you're going to do next?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then that's not something you need to know right now.
Right.
If it doesn't determine one direction or another, then it doesn't really matter. And you can always hold your question. I think, like, you can always ask for more later. You can't unknow things. So it's better to, like, hold your question if you're not sure, if you really need to know it, than to ask it. And because then you're dealing with so many more triggers later of, like, all the different things versus, like, okay, I've really sat with this now for like a week or a month or whatever, and I do think I need to know.
Yeah, I have some more questions.
I have more questions for you. So I guess just be careful about, like, how much you ask. So the other thing I think is important is to not rush into making a decision about the marriage, because I don't think you want to stay married to someone who's going to continue to be unfaithful for you and unfaithful to you. And you don't have enough information in the moment or even, like, the weeks and months after that to know if that person is going to decide to be faithful to you. And so rushing into this decision of, like, I'm absolutely going to stay married to you no matter what, or I'm absolutely going to leave you no matter what. Those two decisions, I think, the ends of the spectrum, like, you don't need to make a decision. It's like, give yourself some time you can maybe say, like, I'm willing to try, but to, like, I'm going to be here no matter what. I think that removes the consequence from the person who's cheated. And I don't think I think I want them to, like, if you really just destroyed your marriage, why would I stay in this? Like, and why would I say that immediately? That's my personal opinion. I know there's lots of women that they're like, no matter what, I'm going to do that. But I don't know if they really mean no matter what, because if the person is going to continue cheating on them, which you don't know yet,
it would be ridiculous to stay in a relationship with somebody who it's dangerous for you health-wise, it's mentally. So, it's okay. Even if in your heart you believe this is a commitment I made, this is a covenant, I want to restore it, that's fine. But I mean, you don't have to run around with that out front, some big flag of I'm staying out front.
Yeah. Or I hear, like, women say, God told me to, like, wait. And I'm like, waiting is different than, or, like, God told me to try. Like, or maybe God even told you that your marriage is going to be restored, but, like, we don't know if your husband is on board yet. So there's no reason to rush into making a decision either way, I think. And then I guess another thing I mean, people do, and we talked about this a little bit, is, like, you just don't tell anyone and you isolate and you're living in these terrible feelings and nobody knows why. Like, you might be snapping at them or you're, like, sad, but you're not really being honest. You're wearing like this mask outwardly, and, like, no, you don't want to invite everyone into this, but you do need to find someone to support you. And I've heard ways of, like, even saying just, hey, I'm going through, like, a rough time. You can let people in different levels to, like, there's people that will, like, bring you meals or, like, help take care of your kids. You don't have to explain the whole thing to them. You can just say, like, I need help. You need help. Right. And so, letting the right people help you.
And I think it depends. The problem with, if we don't give information, in the absence of information, people create their own narratives. And so that's where gossip. So there's this, for me, a fine line of isolation is not helpful, is not going to get you there, is going to prolong the process, may even prevent the process. Putting it on somebody who can't manage it or help, now we put a weight on them that they got to get off of them. And so they're going to gossip because, like, I don't know what to process, so that's why finding the right people who can deal with it and handle it and manage it.
Yes. I guess what I'm saying is, like, if you could say, hey, as a mom, I could have been like, hey, I'm just, like, really burnt out. Could you take my kid?
For sure.
Could you take my kid for, like, 2 hours? And I don't need to give any more explanation.
That's different than, I've got something really heavy I just can't share. Unspoken prayer requests.
No, not that. That will promote gossip. But there are ways that we don't have to share everything, but we can say, like, I just need like some help. And you know what? Like,
yeah.
if you have young kids, like there's no
that's
question.
Enough.
There's no question there. And that's usually why you can't take the time to yourself. Like if you're single without kids, you don't need it. There's not a lot of people to report to. But if you have young kids, that's often an excuse I hear women say of like, well, I have my kids. I'm like, there's nobody that will take your kids for like 2 hours.
Right.
You mean, like, you don't have to tell them. You just have to be like, hey, I don't want to go to Costco with my kids. Like, could you take them?
Sure. Or at the very least,
they don't have to know you're not going to Costco.
At least when your cheating husband gets home, he can watch it.
Exactly.
Like,
I mean,
bro, you got the kids
for sure.
Out,
yeah. Which works if you're still living in the same house.
True.
And that's one thing I'm like, your husband is capable of taking care of the kids, and he should carry some of that.
To own that.
And he knows what's going on. So let your husband have the kids for an hour or 2 or 3. Or the whole weekend.
Or a whole month. Right now.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how old your kids are.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's good. Those are awesome. So we talked about kind of discovery, what we should be doing individually, who needs to be involved, what we should not be doing. Mm-hmm. And so part 2, I want to come back and talk about what does the marriage restoration journey look like, and how do we navigate that?
For sure. That's a different journey.
All right. That's all we got for this time. We'll see you in the next video.